We know you have a lot of choices when it comes to your education. It's time to make Thomas Nelson your first choice. We believe learning should be personalized to fit your needs. 50 years ago, we opened our doors to provide Peninsula residents access to a high-quality education. Today, Thomas Nelson continues that tradition and offers an education that is personal, affordable, flexible, and local. Make Thomas Nelson your first choice. Success. It's closer than you think. Visit us at tncc.edu.
The Peel Art Gallery, Museum and Archives, also known as PAMA, is pleased to partner with Caribbean Art Fair, Black Artist Network and Dialogue, and guest curators Karen Carter and Greg Manuel to present When Night Stirred at Sea, Contemporary Caribbean Art. This exhibit aims to connect Caribbean artists to the broader art world and includes local and international talent, including Brampton's own Janice Reed. The exhibit begins on October 29th virtually and eventually on-site once PAMA reopens to the public. For more information, please visit pama.peelregion.ca.
You are listening to New Theory Radio.
Welcome to New Theory Radio on Sauga 960 AM, the show where we theorize on arts and pop culture. My name is Nav Nanwa, and I am your host. New Theory Radio is presented by PAMA, the Peel Art Gallery, Museum, and Archives. Before we begin, I also want to thank everyone who joined us for our Rose Theater virtual show yesterday, which was Saturday. We had a great turnout for New Theory Radio Live in partnership with the Rose Brampton. The topic was theories on songwriting, so I want to give a special thanks to the Rose Theater and all the wonderful staff, as well as Raz, Arlene, and Colorblind Photography for supporting our first show. And look out for more clips from this show coming out over the next couple of weeks via the New Theory Radio social account and the Rose Theater social account. But today I'm very much excited to bring back our pop culture panel. It's been a while since we had a pop culture panel, and a lot happened this week. And you know, here on NTR, we love to theorize about it. So joining me for the next hour are two amazing women who you can hear daily on Sauga 960 AM with their show, #This. They both love a good hot take and, like me, love conversating on what's trending in the world. I have Jazan and Taman here on New Theory Radio. What's going on, peeps?
We're living on this fine Saturday afternoon. It's just a relaxing day. I'm just gonna cook and eat all day. That's the only plan I have all day. Taman, how are you doing?
I am doing well. It is a bright sunny day, so I am living. I am taking advantage of it. I'm going to be out all day.
Yeah, I got to be out later to do something, which I probably just talked about. But anyways, I'm going to be busting out my white sneakers because it's not snowing yet. So I feel like these are one of the last few days that you can wear like nice shoes before we get hit with some crazy weather.
I don't know about that. I feel like the winter is going to surprise us once again, because just not too long ago, 2 weeks ago, we were seeing like 20 degrees outside.
Oh, that was nuts.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's straight global warming.
I know. It feels so good, but it's so damaging.
But you know who's not feeling good? And that's our good friend, The Weeknd. So the Grammy Award nominations were announced this week. And the biggest news coming out of it was really not who was nominated, but who got snubbed. So like I mentioned earlier, Scarborough's own The Weeknd got 0 nominations, with a lot of people really considering his album After Hours to be one of the standouts of the year. His track Blinding Lights, which I'm sure both of you have heard numerous times, was everywhere this year. Like, I almost equate Blinding Lights as being one of the songs that I'll probably think about when I think about this time that we're living in with the pandemic. And to add more fuel or more speculation to what's going on, Abel did go on his social channels and he did speak about this being an example of corruption that currently exists within the recording category. So we'll definitely jump into that. But let's just get right into this. And maybe, Taman, we'll begin with you. What's your theory on Grammy snubs, and what's your overall thoughts on this story?
So even just looking at most award shows, you have to see who the panel is, who's the one that's nominating, and on what criteria are they nominating on. I think that they're interesting for people that like watching it, but at the end of the day, it's, for me, for example, the music that I like a lot of like lo-fi music, a lot of lo-fi hip hop, as you know, a lot of lo-fi, a lot of selection, a lot of local artists. And so not unless you're into, big pop culture artists, are you going to watch the show? And then even then it's like the criteria that you base it on. So a lot of these artists that kind of like go into the field, I guess, kind of go in with, a Grammy nomination being on their, like a Grammy nomination being a goal that they want to achieve. And so when it comes to this, it's looking at how everyone, like most artists, they kind of like won't speak out against the corruption or what's going on behind the scenes unless they themselves have been impacted. And it's been happening for a while as well. There's like the panels, I don't think properly reflect who they're actually, like the music that's actually being catered to, because continuously over and over again, you see music made by Black folks being put into the urban category or the rap category or the R&B category. Very rarely is it in like the major album like of the year or like in any other category. So I feel like it's been I wouldn't say corrupt, but I'd say it's been one-sided for a while.
Yeah, it's been an issue for quite some time. Like even Kanye West was speaking out about this like years ago, talking about how, we just passed the 10th anniversary of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is considered like one of the best albums of all time. And I remember during the 2011 Grammys, like it was pretty evident that I don't believe it got nominated for Album of the Year. Like I think if anything, it got snubbed. But yeah, it is something that comes up quite a bit. Jazan, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't understand why we put the Grammys on a pedestal to begin with. I think that for a long time now, it's been proven over and over again that I feel like the committee who's in charge of, voting has had a disconnect in Black music. That's just my personal opinion. And I think a lot of people actually feel this way. Even Justin Bieber, I'm gonna take Justin Bieber as an example. So he was nominated, but he was put in the pop music category. And he actually posted on his Instagram saying, "Hey Grammys, I'm grateful for this, but I intended to make it an R&B track, changes like starting off with the drums, the overall melody. It was very R&B, but for some reason you guys put me in the pop music category. And I want to know, who are these judges? How old are these judges? And I know that the Grammys, not only do they have committees, they have subcommittees. And I just feel like they need to do some research and get with the times.
Yeah, and actually, I remember this was something I believe came up last year too, because I think there was some comments made on the make of the Recording Academy, and then how there was also a lack of female representation. Because I think last year there was some issues. I'll have to go back and double check, but I think there was some issues regarding gender equality or just gender representation across some of the categories. Like even, I believe it's one of the R&B categories. Like there's no female nominee as like at all, right? And that was called out and I think it's pretty evident, and I had this question on there, but I'll just ask the both of you anyways. Like, it doesn't sound like the Grammys really mean much to both of you as music fans. And I know how deep both of you guys are when it comes to music. And Taman, why is that? Is that because you don't feel like it really represents your tastes? Or do you think maybe some of the artists you listen to are maybe bigger than what a Grammy is?
I don't really, so I obviously listen to a lot of hip hop, but I listen to a mixture of music as well. So when it comes to like certain music, if it comes to like rock or if it comes to any sort of like pop, I would watch it because I think that most of the people on the panel, from what I've experienced, are more well versed in that type of music style. So when I'm listening to music like that, and I want to see, like a couple of years ago, the Black Keys, I believe, won, and I was super excited about that because that's one of my favorite bands. So I think they understand music on that level, but I don't understand if they truly understand hip hop and just like the history behind it. And as well as I said, like I'm more into lo-fi hip hop, like local artists, and even if I do listen to mainstream hip hop, I listen to it for the message almost. Like obviously there is other music that you're going to listen to as well, like hype music, but I don't think that what I like is what I like, and I don't need a Grammy or a music nomination for whatever artist I like to be listening to their music.
I'm just pulling up because one of the other questions I had was the fact that you had this one issue where you got The Weeknd, who again dominated 2020 with his album. He's been doing some really amazing work when it comes to a lot of his performances, even during pandemic. Totally gets snubbed. But then you have a category like Best Rap Album, which to me was like quite the opposite. Like it recognized a lot of albums that I didn't think would get recognized. Like Jay Electronica's album got nominated. Freddie Gibbs and Alchemist, which to me, like as a strong hip hop fan, like that Alfredo album is an amazing album, but to see it get recognized for a Grammy or a Grammy nomination, I'm like, whoa, I did not expect that. Like I thought that type of album is really just for hardcore hip hop heads, but it got recognized. Even like Nas's God's Disease album got nominated as well. So like you had one spectrum where people were complaining about the treatment that The Weeknd was getting, but then you had another spectrum where it's like, hey, they really went deep into the rap category and decided to recognize a lot of these albums that maybe steer towards a more I'm trying to find the word, but a more mature hip hop fan, that makes sense, or a fan who really appreciates the art versus going mainstream. Jazan, are you a fan of this inconsistency?
Absolutely not. But I want to comment on the Grammys, and if why
please.
I think it's losing its relevance. It's not only the fact that like they're doing a bad job, but also because I never find myself sitting in front of a TV anymore. And back in the day when we were excited to see these artists perform, it was because they had this star power. Because there wasn't like there were not many social media channels, and they always remained a mystery.
Yeah.
And I think that no longer they are a mystery, of course. I never, ever desire to sit at home watching the Grammys because I'm like, okay, I'll just catch up like later. My favorite one performance that I want to watch, I'll watch it on YouTube. Oh, cool. Like I'll just update myself later. So that's one of the reasons why I think the Grammys have also become irrelevant, because I think that they're not doing enough to appeal to us anymore. They're not doing enough in the marketing aspect of things. It's still going to be on like television, and it's just irrelevant to me now.
Yeah, it's very much considered in a lot of music circles as like the old guard, right? Like it's just something that hasn't been able to catch up. And they've made efforts, but to your point, I think that stigma exists. One last thing about this topic is Drake obviously had to chime in, because when it comes to something like this, you got to hear from the sixth god. And he talked about The Weeknd getting snubbed, and he almost wrote like this essay or this paragraph on social where he pretty much called for artists to use this as an opportunity to create their own thing, like create maybe something that's for artists directly. We've seen movements like this be made in the past, and you almost have that with when you think about like the SAG Awards that exist, where it's the artist union that goes and puts an award show together, and typically you'll see a lot of actors get recognized who are in these very important or very artistic movies, right? And I almost think that could something like this exist for artists? And Taman, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Do you think now is a time for some of these artists to come together and maybe create their own award show?
So I'm going to give a very hippie type of response.
Feel free.
And I'm going to say that music taste is subjective. So whatever awards that are given, I understand like the criteria of like, the beat building, and there's certain aspects to music and how it's leveled. Like, people can sit around debating who is the best lyricist or who is the best producer in whatever category, because hip hop itself, you can't put it into one category. And I'm talking specifically about that because I'm assuming that Drake would be focusing on exclusively hip hop and R&B. And there are like different categories to it. But then again, music is so subjective. Something that I like, you might not like. And just going off of that, how are you like the entire premise of an award show, giving awards to someone, like you're just creating a hierarchy. Why can't we just appreciate all music?
It's
Same,
very
equally.
utopian, right?
To add on to that, a thought just crossed my mind. I think back in 2010, artists needed the Grammys, but now we are in 2020, and I don't think it's the same thing anymore. I think Grammys need artists to promote their show, and I think they should be very careful in how they treat their artists. I don't know if you guys will agree with me on this one, because now artists have their own platforms and their own channels, and it's more easy for them to market themselves. And I think that it's losing power. Like when you would hear about an artist winning a Grammy and performing at a Grammy, it would be the coolest thing ever. But now it's kind of like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, well, it's part of the reason why you're seeing a lot of artists go independent, right? Like they realize, hey, I got a fan base. Like Taylor Swift's doing it as we speak. Like she's literally re-recording like all of her old albums because she was able to get all that. She was able to buy that from her label, and even now, like she's going to be just putting out music just independently, just based on how she wants to do it. And I think Jazan, you hit a good point there, because I think now no longer do artists really need institutions nowadays. They've almost become institutions.
Yeah, they're losing their power. Even Oscars, they've lost their power after all the backlash they've been receiving in the last couple of years. Oscars so white. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that hashtag, but it's a movement. It's a big movement.
You are listening to New Theory Radio.
You are listening to New Theory Radio, the show where we theorize on arts and pop culture, presented by PAMA. I'm Nav Nanwa, and I'm joined by the crew from #This, which you can listen to daily on Sauga 960 AM, Jazan and Taman. Another interesting topic from the week was the news around the fact that Rogers Communications, the parent company of the Blue Jays, as well as a telecommunications powerhouse, is considering a possible demolition of the Rogers Center, aka the Skydome. I still like to call it the Skydome. This sparked a lot of debate online about the importance of this venue to the city of Toronto and just the make of Toronto. And you had a lot of people really reminisce about Skydome memories on social media. But then there was also some people that were for the demolition of the Skydome, saying, you know what, I think it's time that we give the city a bit of a facelift, and we maybe give the Blue Jays some real grass to play on, which again, if you're a baseball fan, maybe you'll appreciate that more than I will. But it was definitely interesting to see this story take place, and I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on this potential move. Now, nothing is official as of this moment. Rogers, I believe, they haven't made a formal comment outside of the actual article that came out, but there has been some comments from like the city councilor in that area, as well as the city. And it looks like if a move like this is going to be made, it's going to take some time. But Jazan, what's your theory on this? And do you agree with the demolition of the Skydome?
No, because I feel like it's historic and it's been with us for so long. I finally got used to calling it the Rogers Center, and it's just so irritating that they're going to change it once again. Because for the longest time, I was on the same boat as you. I kept calling it the Skydome, but then I finally got used to calling it the Rogers Center, and now they're going to do it again. And I have a question: is this coming out of our taxpayers' dollars? Like, how are they funding this? It's going to be super, super costly to even build.
Yeah, that's a good question. It did come out that Rogers does own the building, but they don't own the land. So usually when it comes to any type of construction of a new venue or a new entertainment center, depending on who's the investor involved, like they could asked to get some taxpayer dollars. Like I know that when they were trying to bring a CFL team to Halifax, like part of the proposal was to get taxpayer dollars to build the venue, because they were like, oh, well, if we get taxpayer dollars to the venue, it'll, eventually additional revenue will come in through tourism and other things like that. But that's a fair point. Like that area around the Rogers Center has become so populated with buildings, with Ripley's Aquarium, like the Rec Room. Like there's so much around there now. It's it kind of begs that in question as well. Taman, what's your thoughts?
So I think that it is the ideal location. So just to be in that area, having everything centered, because like even, down the street, you have Jurassic Park. I think that everything is just centered in that area. And so it makes a nice little sports hub in Toronto. And on top of that, I think there were rumors that they were only going to build a smaller sized stadium there. And the rest of the land was going to be residential, and where the original sidewalk slab was going to be, the Google sidewalk slab, that's where they wanted to construct a full-size stadium. And I think that it takes away from the magic of that area, because that, like you mentioned, that area is so full. You have Ripley's Aquarium, the CN Tower, the Rec Room, and just like the sports bar and Jurassic Park. And so when you are there, pre-pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic, and there's like, a Beyonce concert going on and, a basketball game going on, it's so lively in that specific area. And I think that, demolishing it is like what Jazan said, you're taking away a bit of history, but it's also going to feel so empty just even being there.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's something about driving on the Gardner and just driving by it, and you see the CN Tower beside it. And even when you historically look at the Toronto skyline, like beside the CN Tower is always that little dome, right at the very bottom. So you're really taking away something that's somewhat iconic to the city. And again, the plan would be to demolish it and create something new, to your point, and then use some of that land for residential. But yeah, it really got a lot of people up in arms. And then that's my next question is, do you guys feel like maybe people are caring too much, or do you think this is a worthy thing to be concerned about?
Nah. Like who cares? But I do think it's like a bad branding mistake, because like I said, finally people are used to the Rogers Center. Like, we're going to the Rogers Center right next to the CN Tower. Yeah, it's really close to the Ripley's Aquarium. It is a brand, and that's what Toronto has become known for. Rogers Center, it's quite prevalent. So I think it's stupid on that part, but whatever they want to do, I don't care.
Do you have any distinct memories of your time at the Rogers Center? Obviously Blue Jay games come to mind, but if anyone's a Bollywood fan, I know Bollywood artists would always pop by the Rogers Center and do something, I guess. I've never been to any of those shows, but
to think about it, no, except for like maybe wrestling.
Like yes. Hey, those are my fondest memories. WrestleMania. I wasn't at WrestleMania 6. I was 2 years old when that happened, but WrestleMania 18, Rock and Hogan, I was there. And I know a lot of people were talking about it. That was a big moment. I was in grade 8, and my parents let me skip school the next day because, again, I was really tired.
Yeah. It sounds like they're just bored. Like, the pandemic is happening and they just want to make a change and they need something to do. Like, oh, cool, we should just demolish this building that's been around for so long. But I am interested in later finding out, like, if there's logistical reasons involved as to why they're actually doing it.
It is a massive building, which I'm assuming the overhead is probably a lot. Like even with it sort of staying there and not being used at all this year, right? Like there was no Blue Jay games at all. The Blue Jays obviously weren't allowed to play here during their season. Who knows if they'll be able to play here next year as well. Like I think Buffalo might be their home for the time being. But yeah, I'm assuming, hey, if you're not bringing any ticket revenue, I believe like this summer, like Justin Bieber was supposed to do a show there. Like I think there was some shows that were lined up for some, again, those shows would have brought in like tons of money during the summertime. Yeah, I'm sure it's just sitting dormant and just wasting money away because it's not being used. Taman, what are your thoughts? Do you have any Rogers Center moments?
I do. I have many. Every summer, like since I was a kid, I've gone to go watch. Like since I can remember, I've gone to go watch baseball games with my
Nice.
family. That's like a bonding exercise with like friends, and it was like accessible. It's you can even get tickets on the day of, right? So if
Yeah.
you're just sitting at home and you're like, oh, like what's going on? Let me log on to Groupon and just buy, like tickets for dirt cheap, or
$5
even if
tickets.
you're in $5 tickets. And even if you're in like Toronto and you're bored, because I remember being in university summer school, and summer semester, and get our evenings would be free. So it's like, what do you want to do? Let's go watch a baseball game. And so literally go and get a ticket at the door, $26, go in, get like, $5 beer or whatever, and like enjoy a game. And so I think it holds those memories, a lot of concerts, like, big name concerts whenever it came to like Beyonce or just like bigger names. It was always held at the Rogers Center. So there's a lot of that there. And just even the premise of it, walking up and down, hating your life as you're walking up and down like the massive ramps, being like, oh my God, why am I at the top? But like it's I think it's more so the environment, the external environment that it creates. Like when we are adding more residential buildings, I already feel like in terms of Toronto, there are small clusters of there's small clusters of neighborhoods. And I think one of the reasons why it's hitting people so hard, or why people have such strong opinions, is because of the pandemic, we have lost a lot of local gems in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And like, although this is like big, it's more corporate, folks are like upset that, the Toronto that they knew, the Toronto that they grew up, or, that they've seen develop and gain a personality over the past couple of years, is now being stripped away because of the pandemic. And the Rogers Center doing this is just like another layer to it,
especially because you're starting to see a lot of people considering moving out of Toronto, like with the pandemic, with working from home, with just people's routines changing. More and more people are considering, hey, why should I live in an apartment in Toronto when I can spend the exact same amount in rent, or even buy somewhere else and like have a backyard, or be able to have my own garden, or be able to be around more greenery, or be close to the lake, right? And that to me has been an eye-opening trend throughout this pandemic, is just seeing the mindset of people around our age really change. Because again, when I was in university, when I was just even starting my career, there was this aura about living in downtown Toronto, specifically in the area you mentioned. I mean, like Bremner was like the spot. It's like, oh, I live close to the ACC or Scotiabank Arena, and like I can go to a game and like go to a bar after, or like, Skydome's right there. Like there was just this aura around being in the core of things, right? And now it's somewhat disappearing. And then Jazan, I like your point about asking if they're bored, because again, they could have had this plan like 5 years ago, or actually they could have had this plan for like 5 years out, but maybe they're like, hey, this pandemic's going on, why don't we just bite the bullet and do it?
Yeah, they got nothing better to do anyways. It's not like they're preparing for shows.
It makes me wonder if you're a disgruntled Rogers customer. All right, we won't get into that. What do you think ultimately happens? Do you think this will be demolished, or do you think it will not be demolished?
Yes, but a slow process.
Yeah.
I don't think it's happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I could see. Taman?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think that they're gonna go through a lot of like consultations, like especially with like the public. They're gonna face like a lot of backlash, but ultimately I think that they're gonna end up doing it anyways. But they're gonna end up replacing it with something smaller.
Yeah.
I think people are just gonna be upset if they have to pay for this, like if it's coming out of their pockets. And I think that would be the big concern.
Yeah,
so we'll wait and see.
And again, it's not cheap, right, to live in the core. So I think that's something to definitely look out for. And to me, it's such a shame, because as a kid, you're just used to seeing things. So when you see them disappear, you're like, oh, okay. And yeah, like I was watching some old school wrestling like back in the day, a couple months ago. And it was actually a wrestling show before I was even born, but The reason why I was watching is somebody online had talked about how it was a show filmed in Toronto, and they said that WWE started with like a pan of like the Gardener and just how Toronto looked in the 80s. So I watched it only for that reason. And like, it's crazy how in like 35 years, how the city has changed, like how Exhibition Place and the surrounding areas, like Liberty Village had nothing. Like it was literally like you pan to an area which is like, I guess, Liberty Village now, and you literally see nothing. Like it's just, it's tough to grow up.
And maybe it'll have a positive impact. We don't know yet, right? Because very little has been said. Maybe they're just wanting to upgrade and do something better for the city.
Which is what happened with Exhibition Place, right? Like when they brought BMO in there, like BMO is a very nice venue, and again, it did open up more opportunities for obviously the Toronto FC, and they haven't really done concerts out of there, but maybe that's something you consider, especially when stuff with the Skydome or Rogers Center takes place in the future. But yeah, to your point, it could add to it and make it more aesthetically friendly.
You are listening to New Theory Radio.
Listening to New Theory Radio, the show where we theorize on arts and pop culture, presented by PAMA. I'm Nav Nanwa, and I'm joined by the crew from #this Jazan and Taman. Our last topic actually was influenced by a tweet that I saw from Taman on Twitter. I haven't seen this show, so I'm wondering if either one of you have watched this show. But Taman, I saw you tweet about a new Netflix show called Fabulous Lives of Bollywood Wives. It looks like Netflix is really riding this wave of reality TV based in India. A couple months ago, we had a really fun chat about Indian matchmaking. But I want to get your take on this show. And Jazan, I'd love to get your thoughts as well. Yeah, let's just start with that. Have any of you watched it? And what are your thoughts? Have any of you even watched the trailer? I haven't watched any of this, to be honest, but I was intrigued by your tweet, Taman, which is why I wanted to bring it up.
I hadn't even heard of the show until this morning, because when I saw your email, I did some research. I thought you were, when someone told me that we were going to talk about the fabulous lives of these Bollywood housewives, I thought we were going to talk about like Gauri Khan and Suzanne Roshan. And I'm like, those lives are not fabulous.
Like legit?
I'm like, their lives are not fabulous. Why are we talking about them? But then I'm like, oh my God, this is a legit show. And I'm so down to watch it, because it's probably just like cheesy and a feel-good show, but that's about it. Because, like I said, this is on the rise. I think Netflix is really taking advantage of the audience because they're super into this stuff.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Indian matchmaking influenced more production of these types of shows, because, again, people are still talking about Indian matchmaking. Like I saw Aparna recently pop up on a podcast of someone that's one of my friends, and people are still riding that wave, and I'm sure there's a second season coming. Taman, what about you? Are you binging Fabulous Lives of Bollywood Wives, or are you not feeling it?
I'm not even going to entertain the thought of that. I was like, maybe I should open up the trailer and watch the trailer. And I remember asking you yesterday evening, I was like, should I watch an episode if we're going to chat about it? But I was like, no, you know what? I literally can't. I can't put myself through that. I'm not going to put myself through that. I know how Indian matchmaking destructed my life, and I'm not one for trash television to begin with. And so I was like, no one needed this, especially right now we're in the pandemic. I guess, it's a good form of escapism, but I'm not one to like sit here and watch rich people complain about their problems and create unnecessary drama, because that's what they do, right? You don't have a show without drama. So what they do is they create unnecessary drama, and just watching that frustrates me, because I am a minimalist in all aspects of my life. And they're not minimalist. Like all they want to do is, you know, why would I waste my mental space on that? I have so many other things to do. I could rewatch like the MCU movies. I could rewatch X-Men, like, you know, series. I don't need to put myself through that. Yeah. Sorry, strong opinions, but
no, but to that point, like I think about our conversation about Indian matchmaking a few months ago. I think part of the appeal to that show was, oh, they're actually dealing with second generation South Asians, which is people that we can relate to, right? Whether it's, you know, again, Jazz, you and I are both married, not to each other, but to different people. But we both like obviously tuned in because we probably have people in our network that are going through similar stuff. I mean, you're obviously in that age demo where probably, you know, you or even people are being pressured into thinking about marriage right now. But to me, like that show was an intriguing watch. You know, whether it was a worthwhile watch, you know, I'll leave that to anyone's interpretation. But it was definitely an intriguing watch because, like, oh, you know what, I got friends that are in this situation right now. This show to me, you know, I see what you're saying. Like, it's just to me, it's just like another Real Housewives of Atlanta or one of these other shows, right? And even then, like I think the term Bollywood to me just gets thrown around too easily. Like, and I don't know, I don't know how if that's something, if that's a positive. Like, I don't know, Jazan, what do you think?
I agree with you in that, and just speaking of the show, like the Glamour's Live, what's the show called exactly?
It's called Fabulous Lives of Bollywood Wives.
Exactly. So I have a problem with what the show is called because most of these wives do not live fabulous lives in real life. So I feel like it's just depicting something that is not even real, and it's sending out a wrong message because Bollywood has a lot of deep, dark secrets, and Bollywood is not the most healthy industry to be in. And we hear about a lot of the star struggles, especially if you're not coming from, you know, a star family. And just lately, I've been noticing that Bollywood has been losing all of its power. And it's because now we're more aware of like nepotism, the whole Sushant Singh Rajput suicide scenario that took place not too long ago. But I think that overall, when I hear Bollywood, I just associate it with something negative. Like it's not what it used to be before.
Yeah, you know, and Netflix is in an interesting spot right now because to your point, Jazan, like it sounds like they're really trying to ride this wave when it comes to targeting not just South Asians living here, but really maybe getting into the Indian market. And I don't know what Netflix looks like in India, but I'm sure it's just filled with a lot of content that's similar. But you have shows like Indian Matchmaking and this. But then you have shows like Sacred Games and Delhi Crime Story, which just recently won an international Emmy, which I thought both were pretty well done and were very intriguing. And to me, I think that's what I yearn for is like more of that substance content that Netflix is able to put out when it comes to dramas, but being able to kind of root it in different cultures, I think makes it more appealing to me versus you know, seeing their version of the Real Housewives based in another country. But that's just my thoughts. Taman, what do you think?
I definitely agree with you. And that's what it is. We like bring more content, bring more diversity from other cultures, but root it in some storytelling, root it in some substance and make it deep or something that's rewatchable. And because I feel like when it comes to shows like Indian Matchmaking, it's not I guess for the lack of a better word, something that my grandma uses, it's not evergreen. It's not something that I can continuously go to. It's like, okay, I've watched it. I've had the conversation with my friends and now I'm over it because it's a real life experience. Like you mentioned, it's second generation. And, you know, I know that both of you guys are married, but even before you were married, you probably have a Seema auntie in your life that tried to do some hooking up. And so it's an experience that we can all relate to. We joke about, and we were able to be like, okay, X, Y, and Z was wrong. So like, although people watched the show, there was a lot of critical critique of the show that led to important conversations being had with elders in our families, right? Because it was a show that we could bond over.
Absolutely.
And pardon?
Keep going.
Oh, and
she agreed with you.
And in terms of like shows like Bollywood, I don't think it's providing any substance. So, but I think that they did it for the reason of diversity, like also to appeal to that market, but for the idea that we already have the show happening in America. It's a proven model. It has a lot of an X amount of viewership. So why don't we do an Indian version of this and see if it works? So I guess it might be just like a pilot program to see if it even works, if it's a model that works. And then maybe later on we'll get to see more and more seasons occur. But I think it's interesting that they're doing this. But I just wish that there was something more of substance. Sorry, I'm going on a rant, but there's this Amazon Prime show as well. It is called Four More Shots.
Yeah.
It's also it's like the friends or the girlfriends of, Indian shows. And like, that's something that I also think is a nice bingeable show. And it's not it's something that's relevant. It doesn't need to be relevant. A lot of them have glamorous lives, in those glamorous scenes. And so things like that are okay. But when you have trash television, I just have a problem with it. I can't do it. Why would you put out something like that? Why?
There's a market for that.
Yeah.
There's a market for everything, guys.
Yeah, there is. And that's the thing, right? I think ultimately, as much as it may not appeal to everyone in this conversation, to Jazan's point, it probably appeals to other people, right? So it'll be interesting to see what else they do. I from what I've read about the show, it's not getting the best reviews. So Netflix is usually pretty good at making some decisions on shows that don't perform well from a viewership standpoint. So we'll see what they do. But yeah.
If anything, it's exposing the hidden realities, right? Even Indian matchmaking, it exposed a lot of the deep, dark secrets and the hidden realities of what goes on in arranged marriages or just Indian marriages overall, and what people look for in a partner. And it's not always rainbows and sunshine. And even with this show, I'm pretty sure it's going to expose the hidden realities of what Bollywood really is. And I think that they need to do a good job in executing it. And speaking of bad television, my husband gets really upset with me when I like to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Oh.
He hates it. Turn this off. What are you doing? This is just so bad for your brain cells. But like I said, people like bad television because you kind of feel good about your own life.
And it's also about it's a lot of when it comes to bad shows like that, it's also a lot of hate watching, right? So every year Netflix is amazing for this, Lifetime movies even, where they kind of take a horrible concept, they turn it into a movie, which is horrible, but everyone binge watches it, like The Christmas Prince, and everyone talks about it. And if you don't watch it, you have to get on it. And everyone watches it and everyone complains about it. You basically hate yourself the entire time you're watching it. And I think that it's a proven model. And the marketing, we were talking about the Grammys before, and Jazan, you mentioned that the artists don't need the Grammys need the artists. And I think that today the social media platforms that we have are much stronger than any award show can give, right? So if you get it trending, if this show is so horrible and it gets trending, and it starts trending, I'm going to be intrigued. Someone who does not like trash television is going to be encouraged, is going to be intrigued to go watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing, and I want to give another example. So Emily in Paris was trending on social media.
I watched it.
And it was terrible. The writing was terrible. The acting was terrible. But because social media, a lot of these social media, influencers I'm talking about, they marketed the heck out of it. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go check this out. It sounds like a really good show because I'm getting all my information from social media. It's telling me that the show is great. So I'm gonna go watch it. It friggin' sucked. It sucked so bad. And I actually judged the people that were promoting it differently. I'm like, wow, they really like bad content. Interesting. And I do that a lot. So it's really bad to say this, but every time an influencer posts something about Emily in Paris or any show that's just bad, the script is bad, the acting is bad, everything is bad, I'm like, oh my God, I think the standard for good content is just
well, admittedly, I watched it because I miss Paris so much. So
same. That's the only reason I watched it. That's the only reason I watched it. I love Paris. I think about Paris every other day, and I watched Paris it for her outfit. and her outfits. So for Paris and her outfits. But overall, I think the show was meh.
So wait, Jazan, you're telling me that you never did a selfie in front of the Eiffel Tower and magically got like 1,600 followers out of it?
No, that's another thing. The show was so unrealistic and stupid. Maybe if she did that like 10 years ago when the algorithm wasn't controlling people's lives, it would have worked. But nope, not in this day.
And for more on algorithms, go check out my my Social Dilemma review podcast or episode in the archives on newtheoryradio.com. We touch on algorithms quite a bit. I want to thank the both of you for joining me. This has been a fun chat. Tell me more about hashtag this. Tell me what the show's about. Obviously, it's a daily show on Sauga 960 AM. But give us the rundown for anyone who listens to New Theory Radio that's probably not familiar.
Well, we kind of touch on what's trending. So whatever you see on your Twitter feed, whatever is trending, whatever hashtag is relevant for that day, we will touch on that topic and we'll go a little deeper. We usually start off talking about COVID-19 because there's a lot to talk about in that forefront, but we're going to run out of things to talk about because this vaccine is coming. And then we talk about U.S. politics. We really judge Donald Trump real hard every single episode. And we do a little bit of entertainment too. So it's all over the place. We do COVID-19, we do local news, we do what's happening down on the other side of the border, and we also do entertainment. It's in 4 segments, and it's fun. It's fun stuff.
Awesome.
And we're every Monday to Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. on Sauga 960 AM. And if you're not in your car or don't have a radio, you can catch us at www.sauga960am.ca.
Awesome. Go check out hashtag this. It's a fun listen. And if you want to hear more from Jazan and Taman, I urge you to go check it out. And Taman, do you want to plug the Elemnt while you're at it too? Your other show, the hardest working person on Sauga 960 right now, the Iron Lady, but not Margaret Thatcher.
Nope, not Margaret Thatcher. But thank you. The Elemnt, you guys can catch that every single Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. And as well as our podcast. It's actually Sunday today. So on I believe on Tuesday, our new website will be dropping. So
Yay.
That's some exciting news. So that everyone wants to check it out. It's the Elemnt, TheElemnt.ca. And you can catch all of our podcasts, all of our content, and some blog posts right there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, congrats on that. And Jazan, do you want to promote the people of the community or no? You don't have to. Okay. I'm not going to delete that. We're going to keep that in. Thank you both for joining me here on New Theory Radio. If you want to connect with New Theory Radio, it's at New Theory Radio on all of these social platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you want to connect with me, it is at Nav Nanwa on Instagram and Twitter. Big shout outs to my little brother Amit Nanwa, aka at Colorblind Photography _ for doing all of our graphics, as well as special thanks to the wizard behind our theme song, as well as the other instrumentals that you hear on our show, Dusty Loops. Go check him out at Dusty Loops on social media, as well as www.dustyloops.ca. This is a wrap for this week's edition of New Theory Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in, and you will hear all of us next time. Peace.
Show your home some holiday love. Shop Lowe's now during our Season of Savings event. Get artificial Christmas trees starting at just $49. Also pick up 1-quart poinsettias at only 88 cents each. Lights, ornaments, and decor. Whatever you need, visit us in-store, shop our app from home, and get free shipping on thousands of items, or pick up curbside for contactless service. However you want to shop this year, we have you covered. While supplies last, selection varies by location. Poinsettias offer in-store only. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii and limited to 16 per customer. Valid through 12/2, U.S. only.
We know you have a lot of choices when it comes to your education. It's time to make Thomas Nelson your first choice. We believe learning should be personalized to fit your needs. 50 years ago, we opened our doors to provide Peninsula residents access to a high-quality education. Today, Thomas Nelson continues that tradition and offers an education that is personal, affordable, flexible, and local. Make Thomas Nelson your first choice. Success. It's closer than you think. Visit us at tncc.edu.